Welcome in, gang. Coach so pumped to have you. Happy Halloween. He's so excited he doesn't even know how to begin this video, right? But basically, Coach wants to destroy the 9th generation of consoles. We're going to have a handful of videos where Coach basically drops all his video game knowledge on you. But right now, Coach is going to focus on the best value in gaming. No piracy, everything legit, brand new out the box. You want to get smoking, you want to get an awesome present for someone this Christmas or for yourself, I'm telling you, this is the one to do. Now, Coach's going to get out of the way. So he's mad about, like, he's got a PS4 Pro, and his PS4 Pro works perfectly fine. It still is perfectly capable to run a lot of the newer games coming out, and it is still getting a lot of the newer games. But I noticed a very weird trend where games would be coming out on the PS5 and the Switch. Now, you're telling me the Switch can handle a game that my PS4 Pro can't? That doesn't make any sense. So Coach started thinking maybe it's about time to jump ship over to Nintendo. And before you start thinking Coach the Nintendo shill, I recommend just as strongly, if not more so, that if you're an OG Switch gamer who's thinking about upgrading to the Switch 2, I think that's a horrible investment. I think your Switch is awesome, and you should get the most out of it. And if you are going to drop some money on a system, go get a PS4 or an Xbox One for dirt cheap. You're pretty much stuck used there, maybe even just a base model PS5. Either way, it's going to be a better investment than getting a Switch 2, right? And Coach is basically just selling the Switch right now. This is basically what he could do immediately if he wanted to. Now, here's the one reason Coach isn't jumping in on the Switch right here, right now. He's doing a huge Steam Deck comparison. And Coach thinks the Switch honestly pretty much smokes it. But no Spotify, no Apple Music is a deal breaker for Coach, who spends way too much time on making his playlists to not have his music coming out of the system. Like, yeah, I could play it off my phone and just turn the music down and it would technically work, but that's just way too obnoxious for Coach to support Nintendo until they get that fixed. But there's no way that's a deal breaker for most people. If you're just about the games, you're just playing them as intended, you want to switch, trust me. Think about, so if you're coming from the PS4, right, immediately now you have something that's going to save wear and tear off your PS4 to begin with, and you have a whole new way to play, right? Coach says go with the Switch Lite because it's actually portable. It knows what it's good at. The Switch, Coach thinks, it's a jack of all trades, master of one. The Switch Lite, best commercial handheld on the market because there's no real competition, right? Like, yeah, you can talk about a Steam Deck or you can talk about like Ambernick, but that's not like a real gaming company giving you a system. You know what I mean? Like, you're just getting a PC, or you're just getting some sort of Linux or Android. You know what I mean? Like, Switch has like its own operating system, I believe. I'm not exactly sure how it works, right? And I know the specs on it aren't all that impressive, but for a handheld, absolutely they're impressive. Coach had a PSP, not even a Vita back in the day, and he thought that thing was awesome, right? You're telling me this thing's got to blow the doors off of that, like, no question. So what are we even talking about? People focus too much on what it can't do and not enough on what it can. And what it can do is run an insane library of games that you probably don't even know about, because even Coach didn't know about like 90% of these, and Coach thought, he was hip to stuff, right? But basically, so a Switch 2 is running you like $450 right now. People talk about the PS5 Pros being like $750, but you don't got to go out and get a Pro, right? Like, it'd be like $500. Same with the Xbox One. Like, everything as far as like the 9th gen is all running at like that 500 mark. You can get a Switch Lite brand new in the box for $230, right? Yeah, it just got some dinky little 64 gig flash memory that's absolutely a joke, but you drop $23.50 at Walmart and you've now got the same storage capacity of the Switch 2, right? You've already even the playing field as far as storage, and the storage 2 situation for the storage for the Switch 2 is tricky. It's not going to be as easy to upgrade as the Switch 1 was. So most people are going to be sticking with that 256, which Coach says is very healthy. And this coming from someone who has a 1 terabyte PS4 Pro that's I won't say like I could easily have it slam full twice over, but I've got like 200, 300 gigs left to play with. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to have everything downloaded at once. Coach will get into strategies with that all down the line, right? But as far as like, if you're someone who has no gaming console, if you're someone who has an 8th gen gaming console and feels like you're getting bullied into getting a 9th gen and you're not really getting much out of it in return, right? They're just telling you the same games you already have are going to run better. Or in the Switch 2 case, they're like actually taxing you to upgrade the visuals and stuff. Like the PS5, like they like tease that, but from what I can tell, it seems like if you bought it on PS4, you mostly get it on PS5. The Switch 2 is like kind of making you buy like every game again, right? That they're like doing any sort of update to. So, you know, definitely, I think and I don't talk about Xbox that much, but I honestly think they're going away. They were always, it's just Microsoft. They were always just a Steam Deck in disguise. They're just the Steam box, right? But it's Windows, not Linux, right? So Coach doesn't have a ton of respect for Xbox, but if that's the route you wanted to go, that's not a bad move either. And Coach doesn't hate an Xbox. He'd have a ton of fun if you gave him one. It's just a little too corporate, not enough gamey for him. Like Microsoft is like, ooh, like say what you want about Sony. You know, Apple gets all the credit for putting 1,000 songs in your pocket. Sony put music in your pocket. They invented the Walkman, right? Nintendo gave you the Nintendo Entertainment System, right? They ended the gaming crash. Like those two companies they're on a completely different stratosphere than Microsoft and Coach's opinion. He still even put Sega as number 3, even though they don't make systems anymore. He would still, he could totally see a comeback. But that's going off on a tangent right now. So Coach was just giving you that backdrop just so you can kind of see where he's coming from, right? He's frustrated that like, basically Coach has always been this way, right? He's always been kind of like, I don't know why I should. And then something happens. It's like, boom. Just sucks you into that generation. Oh, Rocket League. Can't miss that. You know, have you seen Madden on PS2? You forget whatever you're playing. Unless you have a Dreamcast, maybe. You know, forget it. Nothing even comes close to competing. You know, Halo, right? Everybody remembers what those days were like. You just couldn't get away from it. It was too good, right? Why should I have a PS5? No one can explain to me why I should have a fucking PS5. Sorry for swearing. I know this is probably going to be more general audience than normal. But why should I have a PS5? I don't need to play my games better. My games run perfectly fine. I like my games. I like my PS4 Pro. It's all done up with the skin, all that sort of stuff. I don't even really understand why the PS5 looks the way that it does. Like, PlayStation's always got some funky design, right? But it's like, you've done nothing new. You just keep doubling down on like big, bulky, powerful, right? You're just like chasing the Xbox. Like PlayStation has like no identity at this point. It's just not the Xbox. And, you know, but then they happen to have some better first party games, you know, because they've been doing it so long. They got better mascots. But, you know, like, and like they can talk about bringing it some sort of Steam Deck solution with like the PS6, but you know, like there's no excuse why there wasn't a Vita 2 or anything like that. Like there's no handheld competition at all. Why wouldn't everybody jump to the Switch, right? This is the company that gave you the Game Boy, all that sort of stuff. Like Coach is not a big portable gamer, but this doesn't seem like some sort of huge compromise like it did before. These games look legit, right? You're talking, you know, obviously every single game, you know, you have on PS4 or whatever probably isn't going to run as good. But for the most part, it's not like we've had some huge jump. Like almost every major game's just like a remaster of last gen or some sort of retro or indie looking thing. But anyways, let's get to the sales, right? So Coach is trying to beat a $450 price point for the Switch 2. Of course, the Switch is going to be cheaper, right? But Coach is trying to explain that like the experience is just going to blow away whatever the Switch 2 could possibly offer, even with their better hard drive, whatever. Like you're just, unless you're just made of money, you know what I mean? There's just no way. So it's like you got basically 3 games on the Switch 2. You got Donkey Kong Bonanza, you got Kirby, and you got Cyberpunk. So, I mean, then those three look pretty legit. But, like, what are they saying? They're $80 games, I think. I think Donkey Kong's 70. So it's like 160 and then 230 if you went out and got all three, right? So in 3 games, I mean, geez. You know, it's not all that. I mean, and, let's assume you don't already have a Switch. Like, you just went out and got a Switch, too. Like my dad did. And I was trying to tell him not to, but whatever. He's just got Mario Kart still. So anyway, you've got Cyberpunk, you've got Donkey Kong Bonanza, and you've got Kirby. And Coach isn't hating on those games. They're good games. All that sort of stuff. But, like, what are you at now? Right? Hold on. 160 plus 70, 230. 230 plus the 450 buy-in. Right? So you're at 700 comfortably with tax. Assuming you're not getting another $100 controller or something like that. Like, you're at, like, PS5 Pro territory. And not to mention, they're talking about all that nickel and diamond crap they're doing. Like, oh, $10 for a manual or something, which seems, you know, like silly or whatever. But it's like, well, if they really are taxing like that, it's mostly going to come, you know, with the new system, because that's what they're selling you. You know what I mean? Like, they got to sell these systems. They got to make money somehow. So, you know, I just think you're gonna get nickel and dime to death, you know, before you even have a half decent library. You're at least $1,000. Like, no, because, you know, you're gonna have a couple games come out next year or whatever. And it is, you know, it's tempting. I still don't think the prices are as outrageous as people say. If you're under 500 in regards to a system, you're doing okay. But if you're at 300 or below, you're crushing it. And Coach says, you're telling me all these games he wants that are coming out on the PS5, he can't play on his PS4 Pro, but they're going to be sitting right there on the OG Switch? What are we talking about, Nintendo tax? How much do you pay a month or a year for your PlayStation subscription? Coach canceled that forever ago. There's no value in that. I'm telling you, you won't miss it at all when you get rid of it. After a few months, when you've replaced a couple of the games that were on there, maybe, if even that. But, you know, so, you know, like I was saying, you're at like $700 if you're like actually buying the games. You know, most people probably just get like 1 or 2, right? Let's say you just got Donkey Kong because it's $10 cheaper, and you skipped Kirby, even though that one's probably way better, and you went with Cyberpunk. So we'll call that 150 and a 450 buy-in. You're at 600 for tax. That's pretty a lot simpler, right, to compare against for the sake of what we're doing here. So 2 games in your Switch 2, and you're at $600 before tax. Right, I'm not sure what taxes is on 600. Let's ask Google. Taxes on 600. Oops. Sales. $36. That sounds right. Satanic enough for you. All right, so $36. So you're at $636 for 2 games. You don't have an extra controller or nothing, right? So, like, this is pretty much bare minimum what Coach is going against. So, I mean, when you really break it down, that's pretty crazy. You know, because when you're talking about, they want to talk about how expensive games were back in the day. Like, yeah, if you had a 64 like Coach did, games were like $60 a pop. Guess what? I just had QB Club for a while. I only had the 1 game. And that was even a couple years into the life cycle. Coach didn't get the 64 till 1998. Christmas of 98. You know, like, you blink and it was 99. You know what I mean? So, and, you know, that system seemed like a great investment. We had, like, 10 games, you know, whatever. But when you really think about it, it only lasted a couple of years. The PS2 was in the house by, like, 01, 02. Something like that, right? Coach is thinking the Switch can curb you off of PS5 way longer than that. I think you can coast to a PS6 with the Switch, dead ass. You know, depending on the type of gamer you are. Like, Coach isn't big into online stuff. You know, he's more of a single player. He's more of a story. He's more of a sports, all that sort of stuff. But Coach says, yeah, the Switch can't do sports as good as the PS4 or Xbox One. But what sports games are we even talking about? There's not any good ones. MLB The Show's crap now. 2K's crap. Madden's crap. And, like, everybody can say that, but It's true. Like, if you know anything about how to play a game or how players move in real life or anything about having fun, like, those games are devoid of all of it. There's no strategy. There's no skill. It's just trying to scam you for money, and it's the crappiest product ever. Like, people talk about the games like they're just a reskin of old games. That's way too generous. Coach would play that shit. They somehow completely trashed these franchises. Like, they'll completely change the hitting system to completely something different in baseball. Like, that could never put, like, okay, so now instead of me swinging anywhere in the zone, I have one of 4 options. Like, it's almost like a turn-based RPG on this swing mechanic. And then they'll take it right back off like a year later just to prove it was stupid. Like, they're just always changing stuff to change it. It's never for the better, right? So Coach says every single major sports franchise is a complete dumpster fire. Madden, 2K, MLB The Show, UFC. That Undisputed boxing game is horrible. The only decent, like, AAA sports game is Rocket League, amazingly, and it's free to play. So there's that. That's Coach's rant on like, yes, we do technically have a system that could be doing sports better, but they don't. We just don't get good sports games anymore. There is one good one coming out that's not going to be on the Switch one. Coach tells you all of it. You know, the good and the bad. So the one that we're going to be missing out on is Mutant Football League 2. But we have the first one. And it seems like what they did in the second one, and it is probably like for the better and stuff, is it runs faster, it runs smoother. But it's just more Mutant Football League. The first one's a great time. If you can get it on sale, you're not going to be missing the second one for a long, long time. So, like, you know, and Coach ultimately doesn't care where you spend your money. I don't want a bunch of people go, I bought a PS5 5 years ago and I love it. That's awesome, right? And you know, that would have been, in Coach's opinion, a better investment. Even though I never recommend, like, early adopting, but, you know, at least, like, at this point in time, you would have gotten your money's worth out of it. You know what I mean? Like, where's the PS5 going to be at 5 years from now? You know, like, and they want more money for it. That seems crazy. You know, it's just like a no-go for Coach. Even though technically on paper it's doing everything right. Like, okay, I'm going to get the handful of newer games, right? But you'll be amazed, I think, when you really look at how many games even the PS5 doesn't have, the Switch has. And I'm not talking about first-party Mario and crap like that. Coach doesn't really care about that stuff, right? Big, like, awesome Steam games, you know what I mean? That, like, third-party games that you would think for sure are going to be on the PS4, but they're just not. You know, so the Switch has a lot of advantages, and if you don't focus on like I said, what it can't do, you know, we'll have a good time. So we're fighting that price point, like I said. So $450 plus 150 games, so we'll call it $650. So Coach trying to beat $650 here, right? And just make it an absolute no doubter. So right out the gate, $230 for my system, $2,350. Right, so we're looking like $250, $260 with taxes, right? Coach has $400 to clear. Coach has a $400 buffer, and I only got to catch 2 games. Are you computing this? Do you understand what a bloodbath this is going to be? And yes, all of these games are also technically on the Switch too. But if you can play them on the Switch, it ain't that big of a flex now, is it? Okay? So you're just in the what do you call it? The meat measuring contest, like Sony and Xbox. Oh, look, we got more power under the hood now, right? And it could have been a generation where something like that were needed, where it's just a little bit of patchwork, like if the Switch life were, like, god-awful. But I'm telling you, I don't see a lot of problems with the OG Switch. Apart from, like, the joysticks, the controllers, stuff you expect, there's always a workaround. There's always they wanted to tell you can only get Nintendo stuff. There's always some third-party adapter you can get to cram your freaking Xbox controller or whatever you want to use in there. You're going to have to pay like $50 to $100 for it one time, right? But after that, you're straight. And honestly, apart from the Joy-Cons, I actually haven't heard any complaints about the other controllers, and Nintendo's got a pretty good reputation for controllers, apart from going off the rails with the Wiimotes. You know, they tend to do a pretty bang-up job. Like, you know, the 64 controllers were weird as hell, but I can't tell you how many times those got slammed on hardwood floors by mistake and tripped over, and they're always fine. And I've certainly seen somewhere like the joysticks would be like way drifted out and stuff, but never once Coach saw under his use, and he played the hell out of them. So Coach trusts Nintendo in certain aspects. Making a durable system that a kid can abuse seems to be their specialty. I like that Nintendo seems to understand that games are supposed to be fun and not this super serious, weirdly over like business approach that like Microsoft and Sony have going on. Like Sony should have moved into the Sega's like we're the cool alternative Nintendo, and they did do that, right? But I don't know, they didn't at the same time. Like it is kind of just more Nintendo, right? Sega was like clearly different, whereas Nintendo, like Sony, just seems like a weird middle ground, right? But once again, Coach is going off on a tangent. We want to stay on the mission, right? But it's just I could do this part in my sleep, right? We got $400 to clear. I'm only catching 2 games. Okay, so let's get right to it. Free games: Rocket League, Stumble Guys. If you got a kid, those should probably be on your system. Fortnite sucks, but they might like it. Who knows, right? Coach was blown away by this one. Coach bought this game on his PlayStation yesterday. It is free on the Switch with the caveat you do have to stream it from a cloud. Don't love that, but it seems like when you just play through and you beat it and you're good, even better to do it for free. When you're home, you got a good internet connection. Play Control Ultimate Edition. They're giving you all the DLC. This game, I don't know why I didn't do. I meant to have like a slideshow for like every game. I'm so trash. Here, we're going to stitch. All right, sorry about that, gang. Welcome back in. So, this is the premise, slightly adjusted because there's no way you're getting a Switch 2 and you're not getting a Pro Controller, right? We're going to get a Pro Controller for our Switch 2. Doesn't move the needle either way, but we're both going to have to shell out another $100. So we're actually trying to match a $700 plus tax price tag. We're going to go $700 with tax on ours. But if you went to get a Switch 2, a Pro Con, Donkey Kong, and Cyberpunk, you're looking at $700 before taxes. So that's what we're trying to match with our Switch 2. Let's look at the games we got on the list. So we just did a bunch of them. Okay, let's pick back up. Let's see here. Coach should have had this already. Oh wait, did we do any of them? I don't think we've talked about any of them, have we? I guess we have not. That's crazy. Because yeah, that would have been where we left off. Okay, so we talked about Control Ultimate Edition. I was going to get a screenshot for you. Right, so this is like some crazy Matrix stuff with the girl. She's got superpowers. It kind of looks like that Ellen Page game they tried to make work a while back, but was like kind of a flop. This is really crunchy stuff. It's kind of like Infamous. Infamous and The Matrix combined is exactly what describes this game. The only real knock on it is you're just in like a boring office, but like everything's super destructible. The bullets, everything's on point with this one. There's a reason Coach went out and bought it yesterday, right? So to have it for free on the Switch, you should be happy with that. There's your controller you're getting for $100. We call it $100 because you got to pay taxes, right? And Coach isn't trying to give any sort of false impressions here. Like we're talking about real world stuff, right? Well, you're really going to have to be paying for this stuff. So starting off, we've got Black Future 88 for $2.19. So Coach wants to start off by saying another benefit, of course, with going with the second console. Let's say you have a Switch 1 and you're going to a PS4 or an Xbox One, or you have a PS4 or an Xbox One and you're going to the original Switch. You now have a whole other ecosystem to shop in, whole different sales, etc., right? So those games that never go on sale on your console, maybe they do on the other one. Maybe they have games that aren't even on your system, etc., and maybe they're dirt cheap, right? So it's definitely the smart move. Coach says it's about time for most people to upgrade anyways. If your system's getting older, you're worried about it breaking down, hey, why not take a little bit of the stress off of it? You now have something you can travel with. You don't have to worry about packing up your other thing, or you can just sit right on the couch and play it when the game's on, commercial, whatever, right? So billions of reasons. Like Coach said, that's the problem with the PlayStation, the Xbox. They're not giving you anything new. If you go over to Nintendo, it's something entirely new. Right? It's portable, right? Not normally what we would want, but look, they're killing it over here. So Black Future, 88, $2.19. The other thing I was going to say is Coach only recommends games that are completely complete. If you don't have all the DLC, etc., you will not see it on this list. It will not be included in the sale, with one exception, which will be noted. So this is Coach trying to match the Switch 2, and you're going to be blown away, so buckle up. Black Future, 88. They want $2.19. Looks like it's worth about $2. To be honest, I couldn't get a lot of screenshots, but I watched the gameplay of all these, but I can't get you the gameplay without this being a complete nightmare to edit. That would never even work, right? That would have to be its own video. So we just have to go with screenshots, and screenshots never do a game justice, but just understand that if Coach put it on this list, it's giving you the crunchy explosions in your brain, the dopamine burst, and it's all pretty colors. It's pushing the limits in some way. Coach isn't giving you crap, I promise, right? Even at $2, we're not selling on $2 for crap, right? So this one is at least worth a look at $2. Coach says look up the gameplay, see if it's for you. Fury Unleashed, this game seems like a steal at $2. They usually want $20 for it. It is gorgeous, way better than a lot of other games they try to throw on you, like that Steam World crap. I think this looks way better than Steam World. Just saying. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. That looks like a pretty solid game for $2. Nexomon Extinction. We got a Pokemon killer. Guess what? So this is Pokemon, or this is Digimon at home. The new Pokemon games aren't any good, people. Even the Switch 2 went, no, not good. So you better start looking elsewhere. And if you want to say stuff like, oh, they just made up a bunch of monsters and gave them it. Yeah, that's what Pokemon did. It's just a bunch of fake shit. So, yep, it's all the same. This just kind of looks like it might be a bit more geared towards adults. But for, $2? That's going to be one of my Pokemon killers. We're going to take a few swings at that, right? We're not just going to think, oh, $2, we've got our Pokemon monster collector, whatever solved, right? We're going to look around for another deal. You take a few swings on these value ones, you'll get one that hits, And then, so as far as, and Coach also says, you get a ton of games. There's no way you can play all of them. So people complain about like, oh, I don't have the storage or whatever. Like it's crap. I understand it takes a little bit more thought and you have to game plan, and that can be frustrating, but it can be a game in itself. And Coach will walk you through that at some point. So we've got Duke Nukem 3D 20th Anniversary World Tour. You get one of the best games ever made for $2.50. That's that Nintendo tax for you. The notorious Nintendo tax, the exact same price it is on PlayStation. This doesn't look like it's worth $2. This hasn't aged well. This is a classic, timeless, beautiful. Post Void. This is Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, the game, the first-person shooter. This is the most go huff some Jankum and trip on some triple C's or whatever bad stuff's in the cabinet. You don't want any real organic stuff for this one. This is going to be that weird, funky shit, right? But for fucking $3, I mean, this looks like it's made for the Switch too. Like, it's all like quick hitting. You move real fast. Like, you can't see, how the game plays. This is really fast. It's one of those shooters where you're just like storming through. Looks like a blast. Marsupilami Hoop Adventure marked down from $30 to $3. $3, 90% off. Yep, put this one in the basket for Coach. Coach is going to give you all the totals and everything at the end. Remember, we're matching that Switch 2's $700 plus tax, right? And so far we have the same storage size. Okay, we both have a crappy LCD screen because they didn't give you an OLED, right? You bought a nicer Switch with the OLED, but I don't think the Switch Lite has any OLEDs. And we like the Switch Lite because it actually has an identity and a purpose. Right? It's a portable gaming system, right? You don't really know what a Switch is. And it doesn't know what it is either. But anyway, so $3, not too shabby looking there for a little platformer. Atomic Crops, $3. This is like a Farmville meets Twin Stick Shooter meets Funtasia visuals or Nidhogg 2 visuals. Really nice visuals. That's what sells the game for Coach. Some of these games, especially like twin stick shooters and first person shooters, you kind of always want to play around in the menus just a little bit. Make sure there's no weird screen shake or anything that's going to make you nauseous. Coach is real sensitive to that stuff. Oregon Trail Complete Edition, $3. Coach thinks there's a better game on this list that pretty much does the same job for not much more on the price tag. But a lot of people like Oregon Trail. I would probably take it for $3. Panzer Dragoon Remix, and for the sake of this video, it's in our cart, right? Panzer Dragoon Remake. They're giving you a Sega Saturn remake for $3.74. Probably like $200 on the fucking disc. And you get hyped up visuals, all that sort of good stuff. What, Switch can't do nothing? Come on, people. $3.74 for Panzer Dragoon. A Little Golf Journey, $3.89. Let me get my bearings. So this one's like kind of gonna hit the real golf itch, but with a very fantasy vibe. Okay, I mean, you cannot beat that price point. The physics look really nice. Couldn't get a lot of gameplay there, but Coach saw the gameplay. It looks nice. This is the one that makes Coach want to pull his freaking hair out. I can't believe I don't have a Switch, and I can't believe the reason I don't have a Switch because they won't put Spotify on it. Come on. Scrap Riders, this game looks unbelievable for $4. $4 freaking dollars. This looks like Mutant Rampage Body Slam remastered. I mean, good Lord. $4? Shit. That one honestly makes Coach mad. He wished he had that game bad. Neck Break Deluxe Edition. $3. $3, dude. Look at this game. This looks awesome. This looks freaking awesome. And Coach, like, yeah, we're going to have a higher volume of beat 'em ups. We're going to have a higher volume of boomer shooters. We're going to have a higher volume of, like, 2D platformers and roguelikes and stuff. Because Coach says, ride the wave, baby. You don't want shitty games. They're not making good sports games anymore. Why are you still playing Madden, stupid? Play the stuff that's good, even if it's not your preferred genre necessarily. It's at least good, right? So Coach says the indies are killing it. Absolutely killing it. So that's what we're stocking up on at the moment. Battle Princess Madeline. Okay, they want $4 for this one. Looks charming. Don't know a lot about what's going on. Like I said, this is something I could have told you more about when I was looking into the games, but this was a long work in progress. K's and the Wild Masks. $4. Okay, for everything that goes with it. You got nice hand-drawn animation. Just a little platformer. Monster Crown. Here's another stab at killing Pokemon. Okay, this looks like a good little Pokemon clone, right? Yoku's Island Express, $4. You got some sort of little pinball adventure. You don't get a lot of stuff like that, right? This looks very charming. I think this is an older game, maybe a Wii U remaster or something like that, but not bad. Death Road to Canada, amazing game, $4.50. If you haven't played this, you need to. This, the game Coach told you, is better than Oregon Trail. You drive to Canada, and you got to get resources along the way by looting places and surviving against zombies, whatever you can pick up. Golf clubs, toilet paper, and flamethrowers. I mean, it is an absolute blast. This game is incredible. It is very well supported. They're always giving you updates. There's always a reason to turn it on a holiday or something like that. Get a little bonus for your run. There's a lot of different ways to play it. It's a lot of fun with up to 4 players as well. Can't say enough good things about Death Road to Canada. Bravery and Greed, $5. Okay, this looks like what Terraria should have been. All right, that looks like a winner. Dragon's Dogma, Dark Arisen. Okay, this is Coach's Monster Hunter Killer / I guess we have Elder Scrolls at home, but not quite. Coach says it's better than the Dragons. Shit, what's the other one? You know which one I'm talking about. The other Dragon Age. Coach says it's probably better than that. His roommate was obsessed with this game. I mean, he was literally blown away by it on PS3. So I would definitely say it's worth a look. Seems very interesting, especially at that price. It's the version you want to. The Dark Arisen's the one you need. Dusk. Coach owns this game. They only want $5. That is awesome. You shoot a bunch of clansmen. It's a boomer shooter. You have an awesome shotgun. You can dual wield. You got double barrels. Awesome gameplay. About probably the tightest, smoothest boomer shooter ever made. Funtasia, $5. Coach really likes this game. You know, it's just a hill climber, but it's the best one he's ever played. Lots of stuff popping in your brain. Lots of bright colors. Good stuff. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game complete edition for under $5. You got a very colorful beat 'em up. Fun with friends. You know, you get in the Scott Pilgrim universe. Coach has a cool soundtrack for it, just like Fantasia. Star Renegades. I cannot tell you too much about this one. Oh, yeah. This is just an RPG. So $5. This would be Coach's pick for RPG because it's got some pretty cool little visuals going on there. I like it. You know, if turn-based is your thing. Just saying. Mayhem Brawler, $5. This is definitely, we have Streets of Rage for at home. There's no other way to put it. It is as old school as it gets. There's no sprint, anything like that. But Coach, thanks for $5, man. I've got it in my cart right now, and I'm about to pull the trigger. The only reason Coach hesitated and all is Coach pulled the trigger on a bunch of sales on PlayStation. So like I said, if you're in the Switch camp, come over to PlayStation 2. You'll probably be very surprised. Don't buy that stupid subscription, though. Just be cool. You don't need to play online. That stuff's stupid. Zombie Army Trilogy, $5.24. You get 3 games for $5.24. You don't got to worry about no stupid COD zombies or nothing. You know, you got it right there. You got it made. Not great. So it actually has to be a 3-parter because Coach got a phone call that run the video. So now it's going to take even longer to process. We'll probably be lucky if this is even up by midnight at this point. This is getting ridiculous. But anyway, so yeah, you get COD zombies combined with Sniper. Right, so you get the bullet time, slow motion stuff. Good game. Sinner, and you get 3 games, like I said, for $5. So keep in mind, you know, a lot of these games, Coach starting here, they're like trilogies and stuff. You know, you're getting more than 1 game even, so you're going to be loaded up if you like one of them. Sinner Sacrifice for Redemption on $5.69. This is We Have Dark Souls at home. Okay, no joke. It's not as good, but it's about this. It's just the bosses. So if you've never played a Dark Souls game like Coach, who wants to play them, but hears all the time about how hard they are, this seems like the perfect place to start, get a hang of the types of patterns they use in these games, etc. You know, $5.69. I definitely think it's worth it for either an intro into the genre, or if you're just a complete Dark Souls junkie and got nowhere else to turn, give this one a shot for $5. 1980X. This is a game that cannot be put into a genre because it explores every genre. It's got beat 'em ups, it's got side-scrolling shooters, it's got driving. It's trying to recreate every single type of arcade game from the 80s. Okay, so very interesting game there. Final Vendetta. They want $6.23. This kind of seems like an SNK brawler of sorts. This is We Have an SNK brawler at home, but it seems very nice. The animation's very nice. Lots of stuff to destroy. Very good art style. Tanuki Justice, they want $6 for this one. This Coach isn't usually big into the 8-bit thing. He made the exception. Well, actually, we'll get there later. There's one other exception on this list. This is one of the few. So Tanuki Justice. I'm so sorry for my chihuahuas. So there we go. Very colorful. Like I said, it's just kind of like an 8-bit deal. I really like the way the enemies are done. This seems like it would have been the best game on the original Nintendo, pretty much. Flynn, Son of Crimson, they want $6 for this one. What's going on here? So this seems like a bullet hell game. I can't remember much about it. Coach had on the list for a little while, so it must be a winner. Let's see. Bulletstorm, Duke of Switch Edition. Okay, so Coach isn't a huge fan of Bulletstorm, but for $7 and it being like a Switch-specific edition, you get Duke Nukem. I know it's kind of like tagged on, right? But it's only $7, and you're not going to have a ton of first-person shooters in like open-world games for the Switch. I know it's not open world, but at least get the first-person shooter in there. $7.50. Ghostbusters, the video game remastered. Not bad. I don't have any gameplay for you there, but this was a very popular game when Coach worked at the game store. His coworkers would rave about it, like how good it was. So I would definitely check it out. It's probably even better now. NBA 2K Playgrounds 2, the best basketball game on modern consoles, the exception of maybe NBA 2K16. You know, it's a preference there, but 2K Playgrounds 2, Coach says, plays a little bit better. It's got more to look at. It'll definitely be fun on your Switch. I think it's pretty much mandatory to have a friend to play with, though, because it's 2-on-2 NBA Jam style. You're going to want a teammate. You can do a bot, right? Coach says this is definitely made for couch co-op. This is one of the best couch co-op games of modern day. Like I said, they didn't do very good with the camera angles here. I don't know what they were thinking, but trust me, it's a good game to look at and fun to play. What the Golf? This is one of the craziest games you'll ever see. They want $8 for this. It is insane. You'll just constantly be laughing at the ridiculous stuff. You're not ever quite sure what's going to happen. but it's all in some way related to golf. Vampire, they want $8 for this one. Couldn't really get any good screen grabs, but I did look up the gameplay. There is a lot of action if you just want to go around killing people, which is probably the way to go. West of Dead, Path of the Crow Deluxe Edition. They want $8.39 for this. It's a highly stylized isometric shooter. Twin stick. This would look amazing on an OLED screen. So if you have a Switch OLED, I would pick this one up immediately for sure. Ty the Tasmanian Tiger HD. They only want $8.74 for that. One of the best platformers from the PS2 era, done right with the remaster. Lots of fans of this one. Coach has it on his system. He's working on an Australian soundtrack for it. Strange Brigade Deluxe Edition. This is... We have Resident Evil 5 at home, but it's a horde shooter, and the gameplay is nice, dude. I hate that I couldn't get much better for this, but just think zombies everywhere. It's 1930s, Indiana Jones style, and you're just blown away. He's going to town with the guns. All right, so Maneater. This is the one game on the whole list that does not have the DLC, because from what I can tell, the Switch does not have the DLC. Coach does have the game with the DLC. It does add a level. I don't know how good that level is. I don't even know how good this game is, to be honest with you. But the reason we had it on this list is because at this point, with all the games Coach showed you so far, if you were to throw this in the basket too, we'd be exactly $200 worth of games for like 40 games so far, at least, right? So we're only like $5 a game, $4 or $5 a game, something like that. So Coach just threw this in to make it an even 200, and to let you know that brings us within $130 of the Switch 2. So if you wanted to stop right here and just be like, I just want to keep the extra $130 difference, have this shitload of games, obviously that wouldn't be a terrible decision. But if you want to burn the whole thing and go completely toe for toe, and Coach will compare the bundles with you at the end, so you get an idea. We will keep going. Here's Maneater. You got Midnight Fight Express. This game seems crazy. They want $10 for it. Just looks very over the top. This is what I would want to have happen on my Switch. Same with Doomsday Hunter. It says $6.29, but you need DLC, so it's actually like $10. I thought I took a picture of the DLC too. I didn't. I love the artwork. Seems like some bullet hell stuff. There's your DLC. So you need the Boss Rush Mega Pack. Right, so Coach, big fan of that one. Oh, wait. So ignore that. All right. Ollie World, $5 for the game, $5 for the expansion pass. You're looking at 10 total to have the best skateboarding game on Switch. The Tony Hawk games were terrible. Do not let this game intimidate you if you feel like I'm not really good at action sports games. The reflex is too much. You don't have to press a bunch of buttons. It's all on the left thumbstick. You just press up, it's a kick flip. You press left, it's a heel flip. You hold the trigger, he'll do a spin. Right, it's really solid. It's made for the Switch, trust me. I would recommend this for every single Switch owner. Like, obviously there's going to be some slightly outside, like maybe if you just have like no reflexes at all. But this game is chill. This game is really cool and worth your time. Dying Light Definitive Edition. This is We Have Days Gone at home. So $10, you get all the DLC. You get one of the better zombie games of recent years. Coach has it on his system. He doesn't feel like it's the best zombie game, but it might be the best zombie game on Switch, and it might not be the worst game to have as your best zombie game. To be perfectly honest with you, it's definitely not bad. I just haven't played it much. Sonic Mania. They want $8 for this, $10 once you count the DLC. The DLC probably isn't really even worth it, but you know how Coach feels about it. So $10, you get the best Sonic game since Sonic 3 on the freaking CD, dude. I mean, this thing is rocking. I love this game. Shovel Knight Treasure Trove. This is the most expensive game we're putting on the list. $20. I feel like it's probably overrated, although I've never played it. I got to throw it in there because they're giving you everything, and it feels like this game never goes on sale. I'd be surprised if you see it any cheaper than this on the Switch. I'd feel pretty good about having this one in my cart for $20. Kingdom Come Deliverance. This is we have The Witcher 2 at home, right? I don't even think it's quite The Witcher 3 at home. That's probably what we have The Witcher 2 at home, but don't let that fool you. It just doesn't match The Witcher as far as like sword play and that sort of stuff. It's supposed to be really fun. Like I said, the combat is kind of trash, but if you want an adventure game. You're probably not going to do any better than Kingdom Come Deliverance. Coach has this sealed in box on his PS4 because he's not quite sure what to do with it. Maybe I'll just pick up the DLC for cheap and keep it sealed. We'll see. Marble It Up Ultra. We have Monkey Ball at home. So it's a very good Monkey Ball clone. They don't want too much for it. It's very colorful. I'd rather have Monkey Ball, but not for the price they want. I'd rather have this game. Hot Wheels Unleashed Game of the Year Edition, $12. You get everything. Coach says this game is phenomenal. You get really fast. You get all the licensing deals. You get to play in the Looney Tunes world, Batman. What more could you want? Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy. You're getting 3 games for $16, so like $5 a piece. We're talking PS1 era. These games desperately needed a remaster. I've heard they have some issues on Switch, but I would definitely still take my shot and think I would have a pretty good time. It's just games after all. How seriously do you need to take Crash Bandicoot? If there's a little input delay, it's probably not that big of a deal breaker. You'll get used to it. This was, with the exception of Crash 4, it's about time. This was pretty much the first like proper new Crash game for some time. So that's taking us to the end of it. All right, so let's see. We're going to compare it, right? So you could either have a Switch 2 with a Pro Controller, Donkey Kong, and Cyberpunk 2077 for $700 plus tax, or you could have a Switch Lite, the exact same storage as the Switch 2, the same controller, okay? But instead of Donkey Kong and Cyberpunk, you get... I could have sworn I took pictures of all this. Hold on. Where'd it go? Oh, yeah. Instead of Donkey Kong and Cyberpunk, you get Black Future 88, Fury Unleashed, Next of Man Extinction, Duke Nukem 3D, 20th Anniversary, Post Void, Marsupilami, Atomicrops, Oregon Trail, Panzer Dragoon, A Little Golf Journey, Scrap Riders, Neck Break, Battle Princess Madeline, K's and the Wild Masks, Monster Crown, Yoku's Island Express, Death Road to Canada, Bravery and Greed, Dragon's Dogma, Dusk, Funtasia, Scott Pilgrim, Star Renegades, Mayhem Brawler, Zombie Army Trilogy, Sinner Sacrifice for Redemption, 1980X, Final Vendetta, Tanuki Justice, Flynn Son of Crimson, Bulletstorm Duke of Switch, Ghostbusters the Game, NBA 2K Playgrounds 2, What the Golf, Vampire, West of Dead, Ty the Tiger, Strange Brigade, Maneater, Midnight Fight Express, Doomsday Hunters, Ollie Ollie World, Dying Light, Sonic Mania, Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, Kingdom Come Deliverance, Marble It Up Ultra, Hot Wheels Unleashed, and Crash Insane Trilogy. Keep in mind, every single one of them has all the DLC included, right? And just in case you're not sold, just with the amount of games you can get versus the other, right, on sale. Like, even if the price doesn't impress you, it's like, oh, well, you're still going to run out of games. This is Coach's list of games worth owning for the Switch. We'll go over it more in detail. But as you can see, it is definitely healthy. I think you would be, if you do not own a Switch, or if you do own a Switch, you're thinking about upgrading, either way, I think the Switch could last you quite a while. Like I said, also, I would recommend picking up a cheap PS4 or something like that. We'll do a video specifically for that. So you can see it just basically never ends. Almost all these games are absolutely fire. Coach don't mess with trash. He appreciates you. He hopes you weren't too frustrated by the dogs in the background. I hope you have a